So if you guys watch all my videos, you remember that last March, in about this exact same spot, I was standing in knee-deep snow telling you about some people that built a house right over my right shoulder here in Glacier Park, right along McDonald Creek. Well, like I showed you in that video, it was built basically right on the creek, and a bunch of people complained because they didn't use the right permits, and it ended up, you know, in all the newspapers, and we'll show you some of the photos from that in a minute. But this thing is still going on. At the time, they were told that they were going to have to tear the building down and put everything back to the way it was. Well, the house is still sitting there, and this past Friday, I went to a public hearing that they had with the Flathead Conservation District to determine what they're going to do about this house. So just a little recap. I went over it last time I did this video, but I'm not allowed in the park without a permit. That's why I'm not standing in front of this house that we're talking about. But that's a whole other video that I'll get into some other time. Anyway, back to this house that was being built. So in Montana, when you build along a stream or a creek or a river, you have to get what's called a 310 permit, which what it is you apply for it. You say, you know, I own this land on this river, and then the county comes out, or the state comes out, the local conservation district comes out, and they all check and make sure, they look at your house plans, make sure you're not building too close, make sure you're not going to disturb the stream bed, obviously make sure you're not going to reroute the stream bed, and just to make sure that, you know, the house is going to be up to code, and you're doing it the right way to protect our rivers here. Well, these people in the middle of last winter went ahead and had this house built on private property. I talked about this as well. There are some private parcels in Glacier National Park that were grandfathered in back in 1910 when Glacier became a park. They still remain private to this day, and they can be bought and sold just like any other land, but they are inside the park. So with that being said, these people went ahead. They say that they called the county, and the county told them that they don't have jurisdiction because it's in the park. They said they called the park, and the park said, sure, go ahead and, you know, hook up to the water and build your house. But I don't think, where I think someone dropped the ball, and I don't know if it was the park or the people, you know, whoever it was, that nobody checked the plans, nobody checked how close they were to the river, and the big thing is they did not get a 310 permit because they didn't think they needed to. So this made all the papers around Montana. There were pictures of it all over the place. It does look horrible just because it sits, you have this pristine creek, and then here's a house being built right in the middle of it, and it's in Glacier Park. And, you know, people go to the park to be in the wilderness and see nature, not see a house on the river. So anyway, everybody was going nuts when the media came out with all this stuff, and the Flathead Conservation District said, you don't have a 310 permit, you never applied for one, so you built this house illegally, and they determined that, or they stated that the house must be torn down and everything put back to the way it was because they didn't follow the rules. Well, of course, the homeowners have a bunch of money into this, and they weren't just going to do that. You know, as you would imagine, nobody's going to do that. It is now within the courts, everybody's lawyered up. So anyway, like I said earlier, I went to this hearing on Friday. It was a public hearing where people gave, you know, each side gave their points, and then the board is going to recommend what it wants done. Well, the gist of this public hearing was, or I should say the gist of the people that built this house, their side, they had their lawyer stand up and give a big presentation, and he talked about all these cases that show that because it's in the park, the county or the state doesn't have any jurisdiction. Basically, what this is all coming down to is that they think they found a loophole where because it's in the park, there's no jurisdiction from anybody, so they can kind of do what they want, which I find a little, a bit of a stretch. The thing I want to know is, you know, whoever built the place, they must have had to get electrical permits and plumbing permits like you would if you're building any other house, but none of that was mentioned, and nobody, I still haven't even seen who the builder was, so that's still a mystery. But anyway, their whole case is that they built it in the park is regulated on its own, it's not regulated by the state of Montana, meaning the state of Montana is the one with this 310 law, so they don't have to follow it because they're in the park. So that's their whole argument. And they also had a stream engineer come out, and he did all kinds of studies and showed, you know, the high level and where they built as far as the stream level goes. But the one thing that, you know, because this house is so close to the river, if there was another flood like they had in 1964, that house is going to end up down in Flathead Lake, because I mean, that's the whole point of this 310 law, is that you don't build too close and disturb the stream beds, because there are going to be years where we have big floods, and the last thing we want is a bunch of houses floating down the rivers and polluting the rivers and in and up in the lake. So then when the public comment opened up at the end, everybody that stood up and talked, most of the people lived right there in Apcar. There was one lady that had been living there for her entire life. She grew up there. There was a few different people that grew up there that spoke, but they all basically said that you still have to follow the rules, and they also cited law cases that showed that, you know, you still have to follow the rules of the county or of the state when you're doing construction in there. Back to the the people that built the house, the lawyer's point was, you know, like, you don't need a fishing license from the state of Montana to fish when you're in Glacier Park, because your entrance fee pays for that, and it's regulated by the park. Their argument is there's no state regulation, which also they say would apply to when they built their house, that they didn't need to follow that 310 law. So basically what all this told me, it was a 3-hour meeting, there were over 30 people there, and what this told me is that this isn't going to end quickly. Last March, when this first all came out, the Flathead Conservation District gave them until November 1st to remove the house. Well, like I said, the house is still sitting there, and now this is going to go on for probably years. I'm guessing this is going to go all the way to the Montana Supreme Court to determine who has jurisdiction over, you know, the building site where these people built. All of the people I talked to afterwards were basically, you know, the sentiment was at the end of the meeting that, you know, even if there was a loophole, should you still, I mean, just because they could do it, possibly, should they have done it? I mean, Glacier is a pristine place, and, you know, there's very, very few places in the world like Glacier Park. So to build a house, even if technically they may have been able to, that close to the river, it kind of destroys the whole look of that creek. When you drive across the bridge, you used to look down and just see this creek going into Lake McDonald. Now all you see is that house sitting there, and it just, you know, kind of ruined the whole atmosphere of that creek. So anyway, the point of this again is, if you're going to buy a place on a river here in Montana, make sure you go through the proper channels and think about what you're building and where you're building it. And, you know, we're trying to, some of these places, once you build a bunch of things on them, it'll never be back to the way it was. So keep that in mind. It's not that you can't have a house on a river or near a river, but just follow the proper channels and follow the local laws, and just think about what you're doing and how it's going to affect everybody else that comes up to Montana.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call, text, or email for more information, and don't forget to watch our other videos about Montana.